I never imagined I'd encounter a real-life Karen, but life has its own plans. I'm Sam, the proprietor of a sprawling 50-acre homestead just outside the city limits. This estate has been in my lineage for countless generations, inherited from my great-great-grandfather who established it in the early 1900s. The grounds encompass the main residence, a separate guest cottage, stables, and vast stretches of untouched woodland and meadows. It's my personal paradise, a sanctuary away from the relentless pace of urban existence. Around 5 years ago, a new residential area emerged on land bordering mine. They named it Maplewood Heights. Identical large homes crowded together, each with immaculate lawns and a stringent homeowners association ensuring everything adhered to their strict standards. At first, I paid little heed to it. I believed in a live and let live approach, assuming that as long as they respected the property boundaries, we would coexist peacefully. How wrong I was. It all began on a chilly autumn dawn. I was taking my customary stroll around the estate, inspecting fences and savoring the vibrant fall hues, when a piercing voice rang out from behind me. Excuse me, sir." I turned to see a woman in her late 40s briskly walking towards me, her short brunette hair bouncing with each purposeful step. She was clad in leggings and a zip-up jacket, holding a tablet tightly against her chest as if it were a sacred text. "Can I assist you?" I inquired, attempting to mask my irritation. I don't welcome unexpected guests on my land. She finally reached me, slightly winded. "Yes, hello, I'm Linda Brown, president of the Maplewood Heights Homeowners Association." She extended her hand, which I shook reluctantly. "Sam Thompson," I responded simply. "Mr. Thompson, I'm glad I found you. We need to address some significant breaches of our community regulations." I blinked, perplexed. "I'm sorry, what?" Linda swiftly navigated her tablet, displaying some form of checklist. "Firstly, your lawn is severely overgrown. Our bylaws explicitly state that grass must be kept below 3 inches, and your trees are far from compliant. We have stringent rules regarding trimming and maintenance. Before we continue with the story, please consider subscribing to the channel. This lets me know to continue with making these videos. Let's continue." I raised a hand to interrupt. "Madam, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not affiliated with your homeowners association." She looked at me as if I had declared the moon was made of cheese. "Don't be absurd. Naturally, you are a member. All residents of Maplewood Heights must belong to the homeowners association." "That may be true," I replied slowly, striving to maintain my composure. "But I don't reside in Maplewood Heights. This is my private property, held by my family for nearly a century." Linda's eyes narrowed. "Now listen here, Mr. Thompson. I don't take kindly to being deceived. I can see your house clearly from here, and it's undoubtedly within our community limits." I took a deep breath. "Madam Linda, I assure you it's not. My land predates your development by many years. If you would kindly depart, I'll consider this misunderstanding resolved." But Linda was determined. She planted her feet, crossing her arms, the tablet acting as her shield. "I won't leave until we rectify these violations, especially those trees." "There are no violations," I stated firmly. "This is private property. Your homeowners association holds no jurisdiction here." "We'll see about that," Linda huffed, pulling out her phone and beginning to type furiously. "I'm calling the authorities. They'll handle this." I almost chuckled. "Go ahead. I have nothing to conceal." Thus began my bizarre afternoon dealing with Maplewood Heights' most demanding resident. Little did I realize, this was merely the start of my struggles with Linda Brown. While awaiting the police, Linda paced back and forth, mumbling to herself and occasionally casting hostile glances my way. I leaned against a nearby pine tree, finding amusement despite my frustration. After roughly 20 minutes, a patrol car arrived down the long driveway. Officer Mike Daniels stepped out, a puzzled expression upon seeing me. "Afternoon, Sam," he greeted as he approached. "What's the issue?" Before I could respond, Linda approached him briskly. "Officer, I'd like to report multiple infractions of our homeowners association bylaws. This gentleman is refusing to adhere to our community standards and claims he's not even a member. Mike raised an eyebrow at me. I shrugged. Madam, I'm not part of your association. Mike addressed Linda calmly. Madam Brown, I'm aware of Mr. Thompson and his property. He's correct. This land isn't part of Maplewood Heights. It's a private estate established long before your development. Linda's expression shifted from self-satisfied to shocked, then to furious within seconds. That's impossible. I can see his house from my backyard. You can see the boundary of my property from your backyard, I corrected. But there's over a quarter-mile of my land separating your fence line from my house. Mike nodded in agreement. He's right, madam. There are no homeowners association violations here since Mr. Thompson isn't subject to your association's rules. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? Linda sputtered incoherently before regaining her composure. Even if he's not officially part of our community, there must be local ordinances regarding property upkeep. You can't just let your land become untidy. It affects our property values. I bit my tongue to suppress a laugh. My well-maintained estate, valued significantly higher than your standardized houses, somehow lowers your property values? That's quite a stretch. Mike maintained his professionalism. Madam Brown, Mr. Thompson's property complies with county codes. There are no violations. I'm going to have to ask you to leave now. You're trespassing on private property. Linda's face turned a vivid shade of red. This isn't over, she hissed before storming off towards her vehicle. Once she was out of earshot, Mike approached me with a grin. Sorry about that, Sam. New members sometimes overstep their boundaries. I chuckled. No problem, Mike. Thanks for stepping in. Want a beer before you head back? He shook his head. Better not while on duty, but maybe another time. Take care, Sam. As Mike drove away, I felt a sense of relief, thinking the crisis was averted. Little did I know, this was just the opening move in Linda Brown's campaign against my property. In the ensuing weeks, life was blissfully calm. I focused on managing the estate and enjoying the tranquility. However, Linda was relentless. It began subtly with passive-aggressive notes in my mailbox, reminding me of community standards and encouraging good neighborly behavior. I discarded them without a second thought. Then came the more blatant actions. I noticed Linda's SUV cruising along the road adjacent to my property, her eyes darting back and forth as if searching for more infractions to report. On one occasion, I saw her parked at the edge of my driveway, leaning out the window with her phone, seemingly capturing photos. I decided to address this immediately. I approached her on the road, maintaining a stern demeanor. Linda, I called out as I approached. Is there a problem? She startled, clearly unprepared for confrontation. Oh, Mr. Thompson, I was just admiring the view, I interjected, with your phone pointed directly at my property. Linda appeared slightly embarrassed, but quickly recovered. Well, if you must know, I was documenting ongoing issues with your land. The Homeowners Association Board is very concerned about... Linda, we've discussed this. I'm not part of your homeowners association. Your board has no authority here, I cut her off. I'm kindly asking you to stop harassing me and photographing my property. If this persists, I'll involve the authorities. Her eyes narrowed. Are you threatening me, Mr. Thompson? I sighed. No, Linda, I'm setting a boundary. Please respect it. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked back towards my home, hearing her engine rev as she sped away, undoubtedly furious. I hoped that would end it, but Linda was only just beginning. A few days later, while working in my workshop, I heard a commotion outside. Stepping out, I found a group of men in uniform surveying my front yard, taking measurements and making notes. Excuse me, I called as I approached. Can I help you, gentlemen? One man, seemingly in charge, looked up with a clipboard. Good afternoon, sir. We're from the county assessor's office conducting a property evaluation. I frowned. I wasn't informed of any evaluation. May I ask the reason? The man checked his clipboard. We received a complaint regarding potential code violations and unpermitted structures on this property. We're here to investigate and reassess the property value if necessary. My frustration surged. I had a hunch where the complaint originated. I understand, I said calmly. And who exactly filed this complaint? The man hesitated. I'm sorry, sir, but I can't disclose that information. However, I assure you this is standard procedure. I took a deep breath. All right, I can assure you there are no code violations or unpermitted structures on my property. Every building here has been properly permitted and inspected. If you'd like to verify, I'd be happy to provide the documentation. The lead inspector seemed relieved. That would be very helpful, Mr. Thompson. I guided the inspectors to my office and produced a thick folder containing permits, inspection reports, and property surveys. We spent the next hour reviewing everything meticulously. By the end, the lead inspector shook his head. Mr. Thompson, I apologize for the inconvenience. Everything here is in order. Your property is exceptionally well maintained. I managed a tight smile. I appreciate that. While I understand you can't disclose who filed the complaint, can you confirm if it originated from someone in the Maplewood Heights development? The inspector hesitated before nodding slightly. I can't elaborate, but yes, there was a report from your neighboring development. I thanked the inspectors and saw them leave. As their vehicles disappeared down the driveway, I felt a mix of anger and frustration. Linda was escalating the situation, and I knew I had to put an end to it before things spiraled further. The following day, I decided to take action. I drove to the Maplewood Heights development, easily locating Linda's home thanks to the Homeowners Association President's sign prominently displayed in her front yard. Taking a deep breath to remain calm, I rang her doorbell. Linda answered, her eyes widening in surprise. Mr. Thompson, what are you doing here? Hello, Linda, I responded evenly. I believe it's time we had a serious discussion about boundaries and respecting private property. She stiffened. I don't know what you're referring to. If this is about the county inspectors, I was merely fulfilling my duty as a concerned citizen by reporting potential violations. I raised my hand. Linda, let's drop the pretense. We both know you filed that complaint out of spite because I refused to adhere to your homeowners association rules. I'm here to inform you once and for all that this needs to stop. Linda's face flushed with anger. How dare you come to my home and accuse me? I'm not done yet, I asserted. Your harassment and attempts to force compliance with rules that don't apply to me are bordering on illegal. If you continue, I'll be forced to take legal action. Is that what you want? For a moment, Linda seemed uncertain, but then her eyes hardened. Are you threatening me, Mr. Thompson? The Homeowners Association has a strong legal team, and we're prepared to use it. I couldn't help but chuckle. Linda, your Homeowners Association lawyers have no jurisdiction here. I'm not a member, remember? However, I have my own legal counsel, experienced in handling harassment and nuisance claims. So I'm asking you one final time to cease your harassment of me and my property. We stared at each other for an extended moment, neither willing to back down. Finally, Linda spoke. We'll see about that, Mr. Thompson. This isn't over. With that, she slammed the door in my face. As I returned to my car, a sinking feeling settled in. I sensed that things were about to escalate further. In the ensuing weeks, tensions mounted. Every time I passed the entrance to Maplewood Heights, I felt Linda's scrutiny from behind her curtains. I attempted to continue my life as usual, but the persistent feeling that she was plotting something gnawed at me. My suspicions were confirmed one Saturday morning when I woke to the sounds of voices and machinery on my property. Throwing on some clothes, I rushed outside to find a landscaping crew working near my front gate. Hey! I shouted as I jogged towards them. What is happening here? The workers halted, exchanging uncertain glances. A man who appeared to be in charge stepped forward. Good morning, sir. We're here to execute the landscaping plan as directed by the Homeowners Association. My blood boiled. What Homeowners Association? I've told you countless times. I'm not part of your association. The foreman looked confused. I'm not sure I understand, sir. We received explicit instructions from Mrs. Brown to bring this property up to community standards. She mentioned that the homeowner had finally agreed to comply. I closed my eyes, counting to 10 to steady myself. When I opened them, I saw Linda's SUV pulling up to my gate, a triumphant smile on her face. "Ah, Mr. Thompson," she called out as she exited her car. "I see you're pleased with the improvements. Don't worry, we'll have your place looking pristine in no time." I approached her, fists clenched. "Linda, what do you think you're doing? You have no authority to send a crew onto my property?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. I'm simply helping you comply with our community standards. You should be grateful." "Grateful? For trespassing and vandalism?" I retorted. Her smile wavered slightly. "Linda, I've been more than patient with you, but enough is enough." Taking a deep breath to control my temper, I continued. "I'm going to say this one last time. I am not part of your community. This is private property. You and your crew are trespassing. If you don't leave immediately, I'll call the police." Linda's eyes narrowed. "Go ahead, call them. I have documentation showing that this property is part of Maplewood Heights." She produced a folder from her oversized purse and waved it in my face. I grabbed the folder and quickly scanned its contents. My eyes widened as I realized the truth. "These are forgeries," I stated, my voice low and threatening. "You've manipulated property records to make it appear my land is part of your development." Linda's smug smile returned. "Prove it." That was the final straw. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "Yes, I need to report trespassing and attempted fraud in progress." Linda's face paled as she realized the gravity of the situation. She turned to the landscaping crew. "Pack it up, boys. We'll continue another day." But I wasn't letting her go that easily. "You're not going anywhere, Linda. You'll wait here until the police arrive." The next hour was a whirlwind of police cars, statements, and barely contained anger. Officer Mike Daniels returned, accompanied by a detective specializing in property crimes. They listened to both sides, examined Linda's forged documents, and took statements from the landscaping crew. In the end, Linda was taken into custody, charged with criminal trespass, attempted fraud, and filing false reports. As they placed her in the back of a patrol car, she continued to rant about community standards and property values. The detective turned to me. "Mr. Thompson, I'll need you to come down to the station to file a formal complaint. This is a serious matter, and will require your full cooperation to build the case." I nodded, still in disbelief from the morning's events. "Of course, whatever you need." As the police left and the landscaping crew disbanded, I surveyed the minor damage to my property. Thankfully, they hadn't caused significant disruption, but my meticulously maintained grounds bore a few visible signs of their presence. I sighed, realizing this conflict was far from over. Linda's actions had crossed a line, leaving me no choice but to seek legal protection for myself and my property. Over the following weeks, my life became a flurry of legal consultations, property assessments, and meetings with various county officials. I enlisted the services of a top-tier property rights attorney, Sandra Martinez, to handle my case and seek damages against both Linda personally and the Maplewood Heights Homeowners Association. "They'll likely try to distance themselves from her actions," Sandra cautioned during one of our meetings. "The Homeowners Association board will claim they were unaware of what Linda was doing and that she acted independently." I nodded, unsurprised, though I believed they held some responsibility due to her role as association president. "Exactly," Sandra agreed. "That's our angle. At the very least, they were negligent in overseeing her actions. I suspect some board members were aware of her behavior and did nothing to stop it." As we delved deeper into the case, a troubling pattern emerged. Linda's harassment of me wasn't an isolated incident. We uncovered multiple complaints from other Maplewood Heights residents about her overbearing and often unlawful attempts to enforce homeowners association rules. One family had been fined thousands for unapproved holiday decorations. Another resident faced daily harassment for parking a work van in his driveway, despite no clear regulation against it. Perhaps most distressing, an elderly couple had been threatened with eviction for failing to maintain their lawn while the husband underwent chemotherapy. "This goes beyond just you," Sandra informed me gravely. Linda and possibly others on the Homeowners Association board have been abusing their power for years. We need to put an end to it. I agreed wholeheartedly. What began as a personal dispute had escalated into a broader issue affecting an entire community. It wasn't merely about protecting my property anymore. It was about standing up for a community that had been bullied and manipulated by a group of power-hungry individuals. As the case progressed, we faced numerous legal hurdles. The Homeowners Association's lawyers attempted to have the case dismissed, arguing that I had no standing since I wasn't a member. But Sandra was prepared. "Your Honor," she argued in court, "Mr. Thompson may not be a member of the Maplewood Heights Homeowners Association, but he has been directly and adversely affected by their actions. The defendants repeatedly tried to exert authority over his property through harassment, false reports to county officials, and ultimately, trespassing and attempted fraud. These actions have caused my client significant distress and financial harm." The judge agreed, allowing the case to proceed. As we prepared for trial, more Maplewood Heights residents came forward with their own stories of Homeowners Association abuse. Many were eager to testify, finally seeing an opportunity to challenge the tyranny they had endured for years. The trial became a media sensation. Local news outlets covered it extensively, and it even attracted national attention as a prime example of Homeowners Association overreach. Linda, out on bail, appeared in court each day with a sour expression, flanked by a team of expensive lawyers. Over 2 weeks, witness after witness took the stand to share their experiences with Linda and the Homeowners Association Board. Expert witnesses testified about property law and the limits of Homeowners Association authority. Finally, it was my turn to recount my story. As I sat in the witness box, I met Linda's gaze. Gone was the smug, authoritative woman who had invaded my property months ago. In her place was someone who seemed to grasp the severity of her actions. I detailed every interaction, every threat, every attempt to intimidate me into compliance. I spoke about the forged documents and the unauthorized landscaping crew, and I described the stress and anxiety her actions had inflicted on me. "Mr. Thompson," my lawyer asked, "why did you decide to pursue this case, even after the criminal charges were filed against Mrs. Brown?" I took a deep breath, recognizing that it wasn't just about me anymore. As I learned more about what was happening in Maplewood Heights, I realized that someone needed to take a stand. These people are my neighbors, even if we don't reside in the same development. They deserve better than to live in fear of arbitrary rules and constant harassment. During cross-examination, Linda's lawyer attempted to portray me as an uncooperative neighbor who refused to maintain community standards, but their arguments fell flat against the overwhelming evidence we presented. After days of deliberation, the jury delivered their verdict. They ruled in my favor on all counts, awarding me substantial damages for trespassing, attempted fraud, and emotional distress. More importantly, they found the Maplewood Heights Homeowners Association Board grossly negligent in their oversight of Linda's actions. The judge's ruling was scathing. In addition to the monetary damages, I am ordering a complete restructuring of the Maplewood Heights Homeowners Association. An independent auditor will be appointed to oversee the process, ensuring that new bylaws are implemented to prevent future abuses of power. As we exited the courthouse, reporters and well-wishers swarmed around me. Many Maplewood Heights residents who had testified approached to thank me, tears in their eyes. "You've given us our neighborhood back," one elderly woman said, shaking my hand. "We can finally enjoy our homes without constant fear." I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion as I navigated through the crowd. The legal battle had been long and draining, but witnessing the positive impact on so many lives made it all worthwhile. Reaching my car, I saw Linda being led away by her lawyers. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw something I hadn't expected: remorse. She gave me a small nod before being escorted into a waiting car. That evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sun set over my property, I reflected on the past several months. What began as a simple boundary dispute had evolved into a fight for justice, not just for me, but for an entire community. I realized that sometimes, standing your ground isn't solely about protecting yourself. It's about setting an example and empowering others to stand up for what's right. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. News of the verdict spread rapidly, and I received numerous interview requests from local and national media outlets. While I was tempted to avoid the attention, Sandra convinced me that sharing my story could aid others in similar situations. "Your case could set a precedent," she explained. "It demonstrates that homeowners associations aren't all powerful and that homeowners have rights. That's a message worth sharing." I agreed to a few carefully selected interviews, always emphasizing that the true heroes were the Maplewood Heights residents who had the courage to come forward and testify. Meanwhile, changes in Maplewood Heights were swift and significant. The court-appointed auditor immediately began dismantling the old power structure. Linda and the entire Homeowners Association board were removed from their positions, and a call went out for new volunteers to form an interim board. To everyone's surprise, many of the residents who had testified during the trial stepped forward to serve. People who had once lived in fear of the Homeowners Association were now eager to help reform it. One sunny Saturday morning, about a month after the trial, I received an unexpected visitor. It was Tom, one of my neighbors from Maplewood Heights, who had been particularly outspoken during the trial about Linda's abuses. "Sam," he said, extending his hand, "I hope you don't mind me stopping by unannounced. We're having our first community meeting with the new interim board today, and we were hoping you might consider attending." I must have looked surprised because Tom quickly added, "Not as a member, of course. We all know you're not part of Maplewood Heights. But as a neighbor and, well, as the person who made all this possible, we'd be honored if you'd say a few words." I was moved by the gesture. "I'd be happy to, Tom. Thank you for thinking of me." That afternoon, I walked into the Maplewood Heights Community Center, feeling somewhat like Daniel entering the lion's den. But instead of hostility, I was greeted with smiles and words of gratitude. The meeting was a stark contrast to the tense, rule-focused gatherings under Linda's leadership. There was open discussion, laughter, and a palpable sense of relief in the room. When Tom introduced me and invited me to speak, I received a standing ovation. I cleared my throat, feeling unexpectedly emotional. "Thank you all for this warm welcome. I know that technically I'm not part of your community, but over these past months, as I've gotten to know many of you and heard your stories, I've developed a genuine connection to Maplewood Heights." I paused, surveying the friendly faces before me. What happened here wasn't just about overzealous rule enforcement. It was about power and control. But today, I see a room full of people ready to reclaim that power and use it responsibly. "Moving forward," I continued, "I hope we can establish a new relationship between my property and Maplewood Heights. Not one based on strict rules and enforcement, but on mutual respect and good neighborliness. My door is always open if you need anything, and I hope you'll extend the same courtesy to me." As I finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. Several residents approached to shake my hand or offer a hug. It was surreal, considering how adversarial things had been just a few months prior. After the meeting, as I was preparing to leave, I overheard a conversation that warmed my heart. "You know," one resident said to another, "I've lived here for 5 years, and this is the first time I've actually enjoyed a community meeting. I feel like I finally know my neighbors." The other resident nodded enthusiastically. "I know what you mean. It's like we can breathe again. No more walking on eggshells, afraid of getting a violation notice for every little thing." As I drove home that evening, I felt a sense of closure. The legal battle was over, justice had been served, and a community was healing. More importantly, I felt I had gained something unexpected, a sense of connection to neighbors I had once viewed as adversaries. Over the next few months, the transformation in Maplewood Heights was remarkable. The new Homeowners Association board, led by Tom and other reform-minded residents, adopted a drastically different approach to community management. Gone were the nitpicky rules and a harsh enforcement. Instead, there was a focus on genuine community building. They organized block parties, started a community garden, and implemented programs to assist elderly or ill residents with yard work and home maintenance. Ironically, property values improved. As word spread about the reformed resident-friendly homeowners association, Maplewood Heights became a highly sought-after neighborhood. Homes that went on the market were quickly sold, often above the asking price. As for me, my relationship with my neighbors evolved. No longer seen as the outsider who refused to comply, I was now regarded as something of a local hero. Residents would wave as they drove past my property, and I was frequently invited to community events. I even began hosting an annual Independence Day barbecue on my grounds, inviting all Maplewood Heights residents. It became a cherished tradition, with families spreading picnic blankets on my expansive lawn and children playing games in the meadow. About a year after the trial, I received another unexpected visitor. It was Linda. She stood awkwardly at my front gate, looking nothing like the confident, domineering woman I'd first met. Mr. Thompson," she said softly, "I owe you an apology." I was momentarily stunned into silence, so she continued. "What I did to you and everyone in Maplewood Heights was inexcusable. I let power go to my head and lost sight of what a community should truly be about." She took a deep breath. "I know I can never undo the harm I caused, but I wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry." I studied her for a moment, seeing the genuine remorse in her eyes. "Thank you, Linda," I finally responded. "That means a lot." She nodded, turning to leave, but I called out to her. "Linda, the Independence Day barbecue is next week. You're welcome to come if you'd like." She looked surprised, then offered a small, grateful smile. "I'd like that, Mr. Thompson. Thank you." As I watched her walk away, I marveled at how much had changed. What had begun as a conflict over property lines and homeowners association rules had led to a complete transformation of a community and even to this moment of reconciliation. I realized that sometimes, standing your ground isn't just about winning a fight. It's about creating opportunities for positive change, building bridges instead of walls. Looking out over my property, now seamlessly integrated into the thriving Maplewood Heights, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The estate that had been in my family for generations was no longer just a private retreat. It had become a symbol of community resilience, a testament that when people stand up for what's right, real change is achievable. As the sun set over the rolling hills of my land, casting a golden glow on the neighboring houses of Maplewood Heights, I smiled to myself. The property line between us might still exist on paper, but in all the ways that truly mattered, we had become one community, stronger and more united than ever before.